You check your bank account and sigh. Another month where the numbers don't add up the way you hoped. You tell yourself you're behind. Behind in money, behind in life. Behind everyone else who seems to have it figured out. But what if I told you that right now, sitting where you are, you are already holding more wealth than most people will ever touch? Not in your wallet, in you. This is the story of a man named Amir, who believed he had nothing, until the day he discovered the one currency no bank could ever print. Amir was 34 years old, living in a small rented room above a laundromat. Every night the hum of washing machines shook his floor, and every morning he woke up counting what he didn't have. No degree, no savings, no safety net, just a notebook full of ideas he never dared to open. He worked as a delivery driver, dropping off packages for people whose houses were bigger than anything he'd ever owned. Every doorbell he rang felt like a reminder. They made it. You didn't. One evening, exhausted and soaked from the rain, he delivered a package to an old man named Victor Kane, a retired watchmaker who lived alone at the edge of town. Victor noticed Amir's hands trembling, not from cold, but from hunger he hadn't eaten. He invited him in for tea. That single act of kindness would change the direction of Amir's entire life. Victor's home was small, but every shelf was lined with old clocks, some broken, some ticking in perfect rhythm. Amir asked why he kept so many broken ones. Victor smiled. Because broken things still hold value. People just stop looking. He handed Amir a cup of tea and asked him a simple question. What do you have? Amir laughed bitterly. Nothing. No money. No house. No future. Victor shook his head. You have hands that work. Eyes that see. A mind that hasn't given up, even after all this exhaustion. Most people call that nothing. I call it raw material. Amir didn't understand. Not yet. But something about the old man's certainty planted a seed. Over the following weeks, Amir kept returning, drawn by curiosity more than obligation. Victor began teaching him how to repair watches, patiently, precisely, without rushing the process. At first, Amir's hands fumbled with the tiny gears. He dropped springs. He scratched glass. He wanted to quit more than once. But Victor never focused on the mistakes. He'd simply say, every skill is invisible until it isn't. You are not building a watch. You are building a self who knows how to build things. Slowly, Amir noticed something shifting inside him, not in his bank balance, but in the way he carried himself. Months passed. Amir still drove his delivery route by day, but every night he sat at Victor's workbench, learning to see time itself as something that could be repaired, rebuilt, respected. One night, Victor handed him a watch that had belonged to his own father, stopped for over 20 years. Fix this, he said, and you'll understand what I've been trying to teach you. Amir worked on it for 3 weeks. He researched, he failed, he started over. And when the second hand finally began to move again, something moved in him too. He wasn't just fixing a watch. He was proving to himself that things everyone else had given up on, including himself, could still work. Word spread in the neighborhood. A woman asked if he could fix her grandmother's pocket watch. Then another. Then a jeweler down the street offered him bench space on weekends. Amir hadn't gained a single dollar of savings, but he had gained something the wealthiest man in town didn't have. Proof that he could build value out of nothing but attention and care. That was the moment he understood what Victor meant. Poverty isn't the absence of money. It's the belief that you have nothing left to offer, but growth is rarely a straight line. A year later, business slowed. Bills piled up. Amir began comparing himself again, scrolling through people, flaunting cars and vacations, feeling that old shame creep back in. He stopped visiting Victor, told himself he was too busy, too tired, too behind to sit and talk about clocks and philosophy. He picked up more delivery shifts, chasing quick cash instead of the slow craft that had once made him feel alive. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. Victor had passed away quietly in his sleep. In his will, he left Amir the workbench, every tool, and a short note. You already had the wealth. I just handed you a mirror. Don't let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise. Amir sat in that quiet workshop and wept, not just from grief, but from the sharp realization of how close he'd come to abandoning the very thing that had saved him. He reopened the shop, not as a hobby this time, but as a mission. He named it after Victor. He mentored 2 teenagers from his old neighborhood, teaching them the same lesson he'd once refused to believe. That value isn't handed to you, it's uncovered. Within 3 years, Amir's small repair shop became known across the city, not because he was the cheapest, but because people trusted his hands with what mattered most to them, time itself. He never became a millionaire, but he stopped measuring his life in numbers that weren't his to chase. So if tonight you're sitting there feeling like you have nothing, no degree, no savings, no plan, remember Amir. Remember that broken things still hold value. Remember that the wealth you're searching for isn't out there. It's already in your hands. You just haven't looked closely enough yet. If this story moved you, subscribe, because the next chapter of your life starts the moment you stop believing you're empty-handed.